Nira clutched at her wounded side, purple blood seeping between her fingers as she struggled to stay upright in the blinding arena lights. Dust clung to her perspiration-slicked skin, working its way into her wound. The once-proud ceremonial staff she carried now lay broken beside her, its power core flickering pathetically. The roar of the crowd pressed down on her like a physical force. 15 consecutive victories had made her a favorite in the Nexus arena, but today, against the Dominion's champion, she had finally lost. "Finish it," ordered Director Harlow from his elevated platform. His voice, amplified through the arena's sound system, cut through the crowd's frenzy. "The Prism Warrior has fallen. Claim your victory, Champion Voss." The human champion approached, his massive frame enhanced by a battlesuit that gleamed under the harsh lights. Each footfall sent tremors through the arena floor. Voss's face remained impassive behind his visor as he raised his VIBRO dashblade dot in the observation deck. Finn Callahan watched with growing unease. 3 years as a Dominion guard hadn't hardened him to these spectacles as it should have. He adjusted his crimson uniform and tried to maintain the proper stoic expression, but something about this particular alien had gotten under his skin. "She fought well," he murmured. His superior, Lieutenant Reed, snorted. "Another specimen for processing. At least this one proved resilient. The labs will be pleased." Finn's mouth went dry. Processing was never discussed openly, but rumors circulated among the lower ranks. Aliens who survived the arena didn't simply disappear, they went somewhere. The thought had been gnawing at him since he'd been assigned to escort duty last. Month-end glimpsed the restricted laboratory section. Down in the arena, Nira lifted her head to face death with dignity. Her people, the Prismari, believed that one's final moments revealed the pattern of existence itself. She searched for that clarity now, waiting for Voss's blade to fall. "Wait," she said suddenly, her voice barely audible over the crowd. "I know you, human." The champion hesitated, something unusual crossing his features. 3 cycles ago, Nira continued. "You were stationed on Helios 4 during the evacuation, carried a Prismari child to safety when the bombardment began." Voss's hand trembled slightly. "Silence, alien, you're not like them," she whispered. "I see it in your eyes." Director Harlow stood from his seat, sensing the delay. "Champion Voss, conclude this match immediately." Finn found himself holding his breath. He'd reviewed Nira's combat footage extensively, how she'd spared the Krell fighter when she could have taken his life. How she fought defensively rather than for blood. Now something was happening between her and Voss. Something unscripted and dangerous. In a fluid motion too quick for most to follow, Voss brought his blade down, striking the ground beside Nira's knee, missing her by centimeters. The crowd gasped. Collectively, Harlow's face contorted with rage. "Guards," he bellowed. "Seize them both." Everything erupted into chaos. Security forces flooded the arena floor. Voss was overwhelmed, almost immediately, forced to his knees by shock batons. Nira managed to roll away, grabbing her broken staff, but she was wounded and surrounded. Finn found himself moving before he could think, slipping away from his post and down the service corridor. Something inside him had snapped. It's a lifetime of accepting the Dominion's lies, crushed by the simple humanity he'd witnessed in the arena. He reached the lower maintenance hatch just as the guards were dragging Nira toward the processing chambers. Without armor, without backup, armed with only his sidearm and growing conviction, Finn made his choice. "Override code Tango 719, he set into his wrist communicator, triggering an emergency lighting protocol. The corridor plunged into darkness. In the confusion that followed, he grabbed Nira's arm. This way, he whispered against her ear, "If you want to live, trust me now." Her luminescent eyes found his in the darkness. For a heartbeat, they simply stared at one another, predator and prey, alien and human, both suddenly uncertain of which was which. "Why?" she asked. Finn had no answer that made sense, even to himself. "Because what they're doing isn't right," he said finally, "and I can't watch anymore." The maintenance tunnels beneath the Nexus arena stretched like a labyrinth, rarely traveled except by service droids and technicians. Finn led Nira through the narrow passages, his hand occasionally steadying her when her wounded side caused her to stumble. "We need to stop," he said finally, noting her labored breathing. "You're losing too much blood." They found refuge in a small mechanical room housing ventilation controls. Finn secured the door and turned to find Nira leaning heavily against the wall, her bioluminescent blood casting an eerie purple glow on the metal surfaces. "Let me see," he said, approaching cautiously. Nira hesitated before removing her hand from the wound. 3 deep gashes ran across her ribs where Voss's blade had caught her. Among her people, showing vulnerability was rare, especially to human. "I have limited medical training," Finn said, retrieving a compact aid kit from his uniform. "This will hurt." "Pain is merely information," Nira replied, her voice tight. "Process it and move forward." As Finn applied antiseptic and synthetic skin sealant to her wounds, he found himself studying her features. The Prismari were humanoid but distinctly alien purple skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the dim light. Eyes larger and more luminous than human eyes. Facial features sharper and more angular. "Why did you help me?" Nira asked, breaking the silence. "You risk everything." Finn's hands stilled momentarily. 3 weeks ago, I was assigned to escort a prisoner transfer. Saw the labs. What happens after the arena? I swallowed hard. They were dissecting a living antherian, recording its pain responses, taking samples. And this surprised you? There was no accusation in her tone, only curiosity. I've served the Dominion since I was 16. Believed we were maintaining order, preserving humanity's future. Finn finished bandaging her wound. I was blind. The door hissed open suddenly, and both tensed for combat. Instead, a woman entered dark-skinned, hair closely cropped, wearing the uniform of arena technical staff. "You've certainly complicated things, Callahan," she said, closing the door behind her. Her eyes shifted to Nira, the Prismari champion. Impressive. Finn reached for his weapon. "Talia, you're part of this." "Part of what exactly?" Talia raised an eyebrow. "The growing resistance against Dominion atrocities?" "Yes." She approached Nira, examining her wound with professional detachment. "Work is decent, but we need to get you to our medical station," Finn questioned. "You didn't think you were the only one having doubts, did you?" Talia's smile was grim. "Follow me." Quietly, they traversed deeper into the maintenance network, until they reached what appeared to be an abandoned water reclamation sector. Talia pressed her hand against a seemingly ordinary wall panel, revealing a hidden entrance inside. A dozen people were engaged in various activities, monitoring communications, cleaning weapons, studying arena schematics. They fell silent as the trio entered. "Our newest recruits," Talia announced. "Finn Callahan, Dominion Guard, with access to security protocols, and Nira, Prismari warrior with first-hand knowledge of the arena system." A heavy-set man with mechanical augmentations approached. "Can they be trusted?" "Venter Finn just committed treason to save her," Talia replied. "And she's been fighting their system from within for months." Nira looked surprised. "You been watching me?" "We watch everyone who shows resistance to the Dominion's bloodlust," Talia explained, leading them to a medical station. "Your refusal to kill the Krell fighter caught our attention." As Nira received proper medical attention, Finn absorbed the reality of the resistance operation. What had been whispered myths among guards was tangible reality, a coordinated effort against the Dominion. Later, as they shared a sparse meal, Talia explained her role. "I was head researcher in xenobiology, recruited to study alien physiology for medical advancements. It took me 2 years to realize the truth. They're weaponizing your biology, creating targeted pathogens that can wipe out entire species. The arena isn't entertainment, Venter. Added, it's a testing ground to identify the most valuable specimens." Nira's face remained impassive, but her hands trembled slightly. Finn found himself moving closer to her, offering silent support. "We're planning something," Talia continued. "Something that will expose everything. But we needed someone who's been inside the system, someone the public has seen." Her eyes fixed on Nira. "We need a face for our resistance." That night, Finn found Nira standing alone in a small observation port, staring at the distant stars. Her wound had been properly treated, but pain still etched lines around her eyes. "Your people?" he asked quietly. "Are they scattered?" she replied. "Not extinct, but dispersed across 100 worlds. The Dominion claimed our homeworld, harbored insurgents. The purification was thorough." Finn stood beside her, their reflections ghostly in the glass. "I'm sorry, you weren't there." "No, but I wore this uniform. I served their purpose." Nira turned to him, studying his face. "And now? Now I want to tear it all down," he said, surprising himself with the vehemence in his voice. Something shifted. Between them, understanding, recognition, perhaps something more. When her hand found his in the darkness, neither acknowledged it, but neither pulled away. Outside, the endless night surrounded the station, while inside, unlikely allies plotted against an empire built on suffering. The laboratory section of the Nexus complex was the most heavily guarded facility in the Dominion's arena system. Located 3 levels below the main combat floor, its sterile corridors pulsed with cold blue light that reflected off white surfaces. Creating an atmosphere of clinical detachment, Finn adjusted his guard uniform, familiar weight now uncomfortable against his skin. 3 days in the Resistance had changed him more than 3 years of Dominion service. "Remember," Talia whispered through his earpiece, "we need access to the central database. Everything else is secondary." Beside him, Nira wore the gray coveralls of maintenance staff, her purple skin temporarily masked by a cosmetic film that rendered her pale and human-like. Only her eyes, larger and more luminous than a human's, might betray her, hence the protective goggles and cap pulled low. "Authorization?" asked the guard at the checkpoint, his expression bored but vigilant. Finn presented his credentials. "Transfer. Order for Lab 17. Specimen maintenance." The guard scanned the falsified documents Talia had prepared. "Proceed." Once past the checkpoint, they moved with purposeful efficiency through the corridors. Lab workers passed them without a second. Glance another guard, another technician, invisible within the system's machinery. "This way," Finn murmured, guiding Nira toward a restricted section marked only by a red stripe along the floor. Lab 17 houses the primary research terminal. The lab door required Finn's biometric scan and the access code Talia had extracted from Dominion communications. Inside, they found not the expected computer terminals, but something far more horrifying. Suspended in transparent cylinders that lined the walls were bodiesome whole. Others partially dissected, all non-human. Preservation fluid cast an eerie glow across their features, creating the illusion of life and death. Nira froze, her breath catching. In the central tank floated a Prismari child, no more than 8 cycles old. Surgical incisions visible across its small chest. "Nira," Finn whispered, reaching for her arm. "We need to. I knew this child," she said, her voice hollow. "On the evacuation transport. His name was Terrell." Finn felt sick. "I'm sorry, but we can't help them now. The database, yes." Tore her gaze away. The living must come first. They located the research terminal, and Finn inserted the data extractor Venter had provided. The system prompted for administrative authorization. "We need a researcher's credentials," Finn muttered. "No," Nira replied, studying the system. "We need this." She reached into her coveralls and removed a small vial of purple liquid, her own blood. With precise movements, she applied a drop to the scanner. "What are you?" The screen flashed green, granting access. "They've been using our biological signatures as authentication," she explained. Ironic that it would work against them. The data transferred. They examined the research logs. What they found confirmed their worst fears: detailed records of biological experimentation, genetic harvesting, and the development of species-specific bioweapons. "They're creating a purification arsenal," Finn said, scanning the documents. "Weapons that target specific alien physiology while leaving humans unaffected." "Genocide made surgical," Nira added. "Precise enough to eliminate undesired species, while preserving worlds for human colonization." A file caught Finn's attention, labeled Project Renaissance. Inside were schematics for orbital platforms designed to release these pathogens across entire planets. They're planning to deploy soon, he realized with horror. The Centauri systems first, then expanding outward. The data extractor signaled completion. As Nira removed it, an alarm suddenly blared. Intruder alert, laboratory section. All personnel initiate lockdown protocol. They've discovered us, Finn said, drawing his weapon. We need another way out. Nira pointed to a maintenance shaft accessible through the lab storage area. There. As they moved toward it, the lab door slid open. Director Harlow entered, flanked by 4 elite guards. Callahan, he said, his voice reflecting disappointment rather than surprise. I had hopes for your career. You're planning mass extinction, Finn replied, positioning himself between Harlow and Nira. Billions of lives. For securing humanity's future, Harlow corrected. The universe has limited resources, and competition is ... inefficient. Nira stepped forward, removing her disguise. You've made a critical error, Director. And what? Is that specimen? You assumed we would fight like humans. Her eyes flashed, and suddenly the lab plunged into darkness of bioluminescent properties of her blood. That applied strategically to the power coupling, creating a momentary overload. In the chaos that followed, Finn fired precisely, disabling 2 guards, while Nira incapacitated the others with movements too fluid for human anatomy to replicate. They escaped through the maintenance shaft as emergency systems activated. Sealing the lab behind them hours later, safely returned to the resistance base, they delivered the extracted data to Talia. This is it, she breathed, examining the files. Everything we need to expose them. That night, Finn found Nira in her quarters, sitting motionless in the darkness. You should rest, he said softly. I see their faces when I close my eyes, she replied. Not just my people. All of them preserved like specimens. Finn sat beside her, uncertain what comfort he could offer. We're going to stop this, and then what? She turned to him, vulnerability evident in her expression. What place exists for us after? The question hung between them. What future could exist for a Dominion traitor and an alien fugitive? What world could they possibly inhabit together? Finn reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. We'll make one. When their lips met, it was hesitant at first exploration of the unknown, crossing boundaries between species and worlds. Then something deeper took hold, a recognition that transcended physical differences. In that moment, rebellion became more than destroying an unjust system, it became creating something new in its place. The central communication hub of the Resistance buzzed with activity. 1 week since the laboratory infiltration, and the final pieces of their plan were falling into place, Talia stood before a holographic display of the Nexus Arena, highlighting key positions. The championship ceremony occurs in 3 days, she explained to the assembled team. Every Dominion official will be present, along with billions of viewers across the system. It's our only chance to broadcast the truth to everyone simultaneously. Nira studied the schematic. Security will be unprecedented. Which is why we need to be inside the system, Venter added, adjusting his mechanical arm. Finn's credentials are still active, though flagged for surveillance. He'll lead the first team to secure the broadcast center. Finn nodded, though apprehension gnawed at him. The Dominion would be expecting resistance activity during such a high-profile event. I should be with the infiltration team, Nira insisted. I know the arena layout better than anyone. Too risky, Talia countered. You're the most recognizable face of resistance now. You'll deliver the message once we secure the broadcast. Later, as they prepared equipment, Goxa, newer resistance member who had joined after deserting his position in Dominion, intelligence approached Finn. The broadcast center security has been upgraded, he said, showing Finn modified schematics. We'll need to adjust our approach. Finn examined the changes. This creates a blind spot in the eastern corridor. Good work. Just doing my part, Jox replied with a thin smile. For the cause. That night, Finn found Nira on the observation deck. Practicing Prismari meditation forms fluid movements that seem to defy human limitations of joint and muscle. You should be resting, he said, leaning against the doorframe. Tomorrow, we'll test all of us. She completed her sequence before acknowledging him. My people believe preparation of the spirit is as important as preparation of the body. Finn watched her, still marveling at how she moved, graceful yet powerful, alien yet increasingly familiar to him. In the weeks since their first kiss, something had grown between them, fragile but undeniable. Are you afraid? She asked suddenly. The question caught him off guard. Dominion training had taught him to suppress fear, to convert it to tactical awareness. Yes, he admitted. Not of dying, but of failing. Nira approached him, placing her hand against his chest. Your heart beats faster when you speak of failure than when you face danger. Curious. And you? What do Prismari fear? Isolation, she answered without hesitation. To be the last of one's kind, with no one who remembers our songs or understands our silence. Finn drew her closer. You won't be the last. I promise you that. Their embrace deepened, bodies pressed together, in defiance of the vast differences between their worlds. Here, in this moment between preparation and battle, they found communion, her skin against his, heartbeats syncing despite different rhythms. Breath mingling in the recycled air of the station. If we succeed, Finn whispered against her neck. If we survive this, ... then we will have earned tomorrow, she finished. And all the days that follow. They made love with the desperate intensity of those who might not see another sunrise, mapping each other's bodies like uncharted territories, discovering differences that complemented rather than divided. For those hours, the revolution, the dominion. The entire universe receded until only they remained two beings finding connection across an impossible divide. Morning came too soon. Resistance moved with grim purpose, checking weapons, reviewing positions, preparing for what might be their only chance to expose the Dominion's atrocities, as Finn's team prepared to depart. Talia received an urgent communication. Something's wrong, she said, studying the message. Our contacts in the arena report increased security sweeps, focused on the exact areas of our planned insertion. They know, Venter growled. But how? Realization struck Finn like a physical blow. Jocks. The schematics he showed, they created a perfect ambush point. Nira's expression hardened. Where is he now? A quick search confirmed their fears. Jocks had disappeared, along with copies of their tactical plans. We need to abort, Talia decided. We've been compromised. No, Nira countered. They expect us to target the broadcast center, so we don't. The specimen transfer system, she continued, her tactical mind racing. It connects every arena to the laboratory complex. If we can access it from the maintenance level, we can bypass security entirely, Finn finished, understanding immediately. But we'd need someone inside the arena itself to complete the connection. A heavy silence fell over the group as the implication became clear. I'll go, Nira said. It's a recaptured fugitive. That's suicide, Finn objected. Not if timed perfectly, she replied. When they bring me through the arena for public execution, all attention will be focused forward. I'll have approximately 40 seconds to make the connection before they reach the ceremonial platform. The plan was desperate, barely more than controlled sacrifice, but they had no alternatives. The Dominion's crimes had to be exposed, whatever the cost. As the revised plan took shape, Finn pulled Nira aside. There must be another way, he insisted. Once you're in their custody, there is no other way, she cut him off. My capture will be the distraction you need. I can't lose you, he said, the words escaping before he could stop them. Nira touched his face gently. You taught me humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We say a lot of stupid things, he replied, attempting humor through his fear. She smiled, a rare expression he had come to treasure. Then perhaps you should stop talking. Their final kiss carried the weight of unspoken promises and possibilities that might never be realized. When they separated, both had transformed, no longer just fugitives or rebels, but symbols of what might be possible in a different world. 2 hours later, alarms blared throughout the Nexus complex as Nira, the escaped Prismari champion, was recaptured, attempting to sabotage the arena systems exactly where? And when the Resistance needed the Dominion to focus their security forces, the trap had been sprung. But not as the Dominion expected. The Nexus Arena blazed with light, every seat filled for the championship ceremony. Giant screens displayed Dominion propaganda, heroic humans defeating alien threats, worlds pacified and made safe for colonization.
How the crowd's excitement
Bordered on frenzy, fed by carefully orchestrated displays of power, Director Harlow stood on the ceremonial platform, resplendent in formal regalia. Behind him, the new champion waited to receive the ancient blade that symbolized human dominance. Citizens of the Dominion, Harlow's voice boomed across the arena. Today we celebrate not merely victory in combat, but the triumph of humanity's spirit. The crowd roared its approval, unaware of the frantic activity beneath the arena floor where Finn and Venter worked to connect their broadcast device to the specimen transfer system. Almost there, Venter muttered, fingers dancing across the interface, bypassed the security protocol. Now, how much time? Finn asked, keeping watch on the narrow maintenance corridor. 20 seconds until full access. Above them, Harlow continued his speech. Before we crown our new champion, justice must be served. Bring forth the traitor. The arena's eastern gate opened. A phalanx of guards escorted Nira, bound in ceremonial restraints that suppressed her natural strength. Her injuries from interrogation were visible purple bruises marring her skin. One eye swollen shut, but she walked with unbroken dignity. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheered her capture, others fell silent, uncertain what to make. Of this alien who had survived 15 arena battles only to be presented now as a criminal, Nira of the Prismari Harlow addressed her formally. You stand condemned for treason against the Dominion, for conspiracy with human traitors, and for crimes against the natural order. In the maintenance shaft, the connection completed with a soft chime wherein, Venter confirmed. Talia, begin transmission. Across the complex, Talia initiated the broadcast sequence. The evidence they had gathered, laboratory footage, dissection records, bioweapon schematics, was compressed into a single, devastating presentation. Nothing happened. The arena screens continued displaying Dominion propaganda. Harlow continued, speaking uninterrupted. Something's wrong, Finn realized. They've isolated the main broadcast system. Venter frantically checked connections, the signals being blocked at the source. Someone's implemented a dampening field. On the arena floor, Harlow approached Nira with the ceremonial blade. For crimes against humanity, there is only one sentence. Finn made a desperate decision. Keep trying to break through. I'm going up there. That's suicide, Venter objected. So's doing nothing. Then checked his weapon and slipped into the access tunnel that led to the arena service level. Above, Harlow raised the blade. Any final words, alien? Nira's voice carried clearly across the suddenly hushed arena. You call us alien, yet which of us truly understands connection? Which of us sees beyond the surface to the patterns that bind all life? It's philosophical. Unexpected caused Harlow to hesitate momentarily. Your empire is built on lies, she continued. And empires of lies eventually collapse. Enough philosophy, Harlow sneered, regaining his composure. Your species always did talk too much. He raised the blade higher, prepared for the killing stroke. When suddenly a single arrow struck the platform inches from his foot, everyone looked up there. On the maintenance gantry high above the arena floor stood a boy no more than 14 years old. He held a handmade bow, already knocking another arrow. Eli, Finn whispered in shock, recognizing his younger brother, whom he hadn't seen in 2 years. Stop, the boy shouted, his voice cracking with youth and emotion. I've seen what you do to them. I've seen the labs. Guards raised their weapons toward the boy, but Harlow gestured for them to hold. A child assassin would only create sympathy for the alien. Young man, he called up calmly, you don't understand what's happening here. Come down, and we can discuss this. I understand everything, Eli replied. I work in the ventilation shafts. I've seen it all. The dissections, the experiments, the children. His words rippled through the crowd. Murmurs of confusion spread. Harlow's face hardened. Guards, remove that boy now. Security forces moved toward the gantry. Finn finally reached the arena level. Seeing his brother in danger galvanized him. He sprinted toward the ceremonial platform, weapon drawn. "Eli!" he shouted. "The transmission!" The boy understood immediately. From his position, he fired an arrow not at Harlow or the guards, but at the primary transmission relay mounted above the main display. The impact caused a shower of sparks and a momentary power fluctuation. It was enough. The dampening field faltered. Suddenly, every screen in the arena changed. The Dominion propaganda vanished, replaced by laboratory footage aliens in various stages of dissection. Scientists calmly recording data as subjects writhed in pain, children in stasis, tubes awaiting processing. The crowd's reaction was immediate and visceral. Gasps of horror echoed throughout the arena. Some turned away. Others watched in stunned silence. Harlow screamed for the transmission to be cut, but it was too late. The truth was streaming not just to the arena, but to every connected system. In Dominion space, chaos erupted. Guards hesitated, uncertain who to target first. The boy with the bow, the escaped Dominion officer, or the alien prisoner. In that moment of confusion, Nira broke free of her restraints. The ceremonial bonds, never designed to truly contain someone of her strength. What followed was not a battle, but a reckoning. Throughout the arena, people began to move not away from the conflict, but toward it. Maintenance workers, attendants, even some lower-ranking guards joined the surge. They had seen the truth, and something had broken inside them. Finn reached Nira's side as the first wave of guards approached. "Still think we need a plan for tomorrow?" he asked, raising his weapon. She smiled grimly. "First, we must earn it." High above, Eli continued firing arrows not to kill, but to disable weapons to create confusion, to give the people time to choose sides. Each arrow was crafted from pieces of the arena itself, splinters of ceremony platforms, fragments of barrier material, all transformed into instruments of liberation. "For every child you took," he shouted, his young voice carrying surprising authority. "For every world you destroyed," the uprising spread like wildfire through the complex. Doors that had been locked for generations were forced open. Secrets kept in darkness were dragged into light. Prisoners scheduled for processing were freed by the same guards who had once confined them. Director Harlow, seeing his authority crumbling, made a final desperate attempt. He lunged at Nira with the ceremonial blade, aiming for a killing stroke. Finn intercepted the blow, the ancient metal slicing through his shoulder instead of Nira's heart. He collapsed, blood pooling beneath him. Vignetta cried, catching him as he fell. Harlow raised the blade for another strike, but found himself facing not just Nira, but a circle of former Dominion citizens, humans, who had chosen to stand with the alien rather than with their leader. "It's over." One of them said, a woman in arena security uniform who had removed her helmet. "We've seen the truth." Harlow looked around wildly, searching for loyal forces, finding none. The revolution had come not with the expected violence of oppressed aliens, but with the quiet dignity of humans refusing to participate in atrocity any longer. Hours later, medical units treated the wounded and provisional authorities established order. Nira sat beside Finn's recovery bed, her hand entwined with his. "The Dominion is falling," she told him quietly. "Reports from a dozen worlds show similar uprisings. Your people are better than their leaders." Finn squeezed her hand weakly. "Not my people. Our people. All of us." Ali entered, still carrying his makeshift bow. Yes, he had refused to relinquish it, and no one had the heart to take it from him. "They're saying it started here," he said, sitting beside his brother. "That a Prismari warrior and a Dominion guard showed everyone a different way." Nira looked between the brothers, so similar, yet shaped by different experiences. "Legends are useful, but rarely accurate. It wasn't just us. It was everyone who chose to see. Outside the medical bay viewport, stars shone against the darkness of space, the same stars that had witnessed countless civilizations rise and fall. The same stars that would now watch as something new emerged from the ashes of the Dominion. What happens now? Eli asked, giving voice to the question in everyone's mind. Finn looked at Nira, seeing not an alien, but simply the person he loved. Now we build something better, together. Ara leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his in the traditional greeting of her people, a gesture that symbolized the sharing of thoughts, the connection of minds, the recognition of equality. Together, she agreed, across the stars, we defy the darkness.